We are live.
It is live. All right. So Shashi gave me this script. I'm going to go over it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gridiron Survivor live stream. I'm Shashi, not Shashi today. I'm Jason, and I'm excited to share what our projects our project updates with you today. So here's what we're going to cover in today's live stream. Give you a quick project overview, quick recap of the Gridiron Survivors' purpose and goals. We'll go over some of the sprint demos. We've got a bunch of the members of the team here that are going to show you what they've been working on. And then a little bit of an update on the project timeline as we're getting closer to the kickoff to football season. We got to see where we're at. Before we dive in, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our amazing sponsors. We have AppWrite, Front End Mentor, Get Kraken, Use Pastel, and Blog Recorder. Blog Recorder is so phenomenal, by the way. I think everybody on the team has finally had an opportunity to experience it. I would check it out for yourself, plus all the other sponsors. Now, let's kick things off by talking about what Gridiron Survivor actually is. This project was born out of a need I saw in the tech Shashi saw in the tech community for aspiring developers to gain real-world experience. Gridiron Survivor helps bridge the gap between boot camp or self-taught learning and that crucial first job in the industry. What makes this project unique is its focus on the entire development process. We're not just coding. We're learning how to manage time effectively, communicate across different roles in a team, adhere to coding standards, handle code reviews and merge conflicts, and work with sprint boards and sprint planning. These skills are often overlooked, but are crucial for the success in a professional development environment. Now, let's move on to the exciting part. We've got people that are going to be talking about what they're working on currently on the project today. We have some fantastic presentations lined up for you. We're going to start with We're going to go to Ryan, Alex, and Carlos today. And we're really looking forward to see how everyone's doing. So welcome and hello, everybody. That's all I got. So I guess we're going to go with How are you today?
Doing well, thank you. That was great. Let me know if you can't see my screen. Okay. First and foremost, let's go ahead. Today I'm gonna talk to you. Okay. Let me know if you can't see the screen. So
wait. One more. I hate this. There we go. That's better.
There we go.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. First and foremost, so today I'm gonna go ahead and walk you guys through how I implemented Global Spinner. And it all started with this ticket first. This is where we're going to go ahead and start out first. So with the Global Spinner, shout out to Ryan. You created the Global Spinner. I love it. It's beautiful and it's great. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about like FEE. So I'm going to go ahead and implement the Global Spinner that was created from Ryan. And I'm going to go ahead and implement it on the pages that are calling an API. So therefore, from this ticket, I knew that certain pages were going to be, we're going to go ahead and have that global spinner, such as, our leagues page, our entries page, and the game weeks page. So let me go ahead and show you it in action. As you can see, that little logo did pop up there a little bit there. As you can see, it is there. So how it was implemented is that, so shout out to Ryan. He created the component there in the components folder. And maybe it'd be better if I show it here. So I grabbed the global spinner from the component folder and I implemented, as you can see on the leagues. This is our entries page. And then if you're going to go ahead and make a pick, this is also our game page right here. So what I have open right now is our league, our entry, and then our game page. And for all of them, I went ahead and did some conditional rendering, saying that if the data is still loading, go ahead and implement this global spinner. Otherwise, hey, give me the data. So this is what has been implemented onto the league page, the entry page, and on the weeks page as well. And along with that is always testing, of course, unit testing. As you can see here, with unit testing for the specific implementing the global spinner, you think about happy and unhappy paths, but here we're talking about positive and negative expectation. And what that refers to is how to verify the outcome of a test case. So in a positive test case, What that means is it checks for a specific condition to be true or something to be present. So in this case, we're expecting that the global spinner should be present. So it should be in the document here. And in the negative expectation here, we're going to expect a specific condition to be false or something to be absent, which we are expecting our global spinner not to be shown anymore in the document afterwards. So say, for instance, it will load for a little bit and it will disappear, and we want to ensure that that global spinner goes away. So yeah, so this is a little demo of what I went through implementing that and the tests that followed with it. So I hope you guys liked it. Any questions on this?
Yeah, I love that you. That looks great, and thank you for the presentation. That was really good. I guess my question, and then if anybody else has any, is while you were implementing this, as far as any sort of obstacles that you might have ran into, and then how you sort of worked through them. Just maybe you could talk about that workflow.
Yeah, a lot. As you know, let's see. I think definitely one obstacle that I'm thinking about right now is I'm always used to happy and unhappy paths. Not saying that this isn't a happy and unhappy path, but this because I had to like Google it because I was like, what's the difference between unhappy and a happy path? Versus a positive expectations versus a negative expectation. Are these words like, do they mean the same thing or do they mean different things? And they do mean different things. And right on top of my head, all I remember is they do mean different things. On top of my head right now, I can't tell you exactly yet. But as I mentioned before, a positive expectations, you're expecting something to be there versus a negative expectation, you're expecting something to not be there. So that's definitely one learning curve I had to learn and had to differentiate between the two testing cases. So, yeah.
Great answer. I appreciate that. Did anybody else have any other questions? Just jump on there.
Yep. Nope. That was mine, to be honest. So good job.
It seems like that was a lot of people's, but that was a really good response. So we appreciate that. Great presentation, Mai. I think we're going to Ryan next. Did I say Ryan? Yes, I did say Ryan. We'll let Shashi get set up here with the screen, and when he gets that up, Ryan, you can go ahead.
Yep. Let me know when you can see it, just because I only have one screen right now, so I can't see what the stream sees.
You are good to
we
go.
can see it.
Okay, cool. So you actually just saw a little bit of what I worked on in Mai's video, but you saw the old version, or her presentation, I should say. So I'll just get right off with it. I had to re-implement this UI. So on Mai's, you saw that these were all just taking up the full width of the screen, and there was no spacing. There was none of this information as well. It was something that seems like it was lost in a previous PR commit. I don't know if it was a merge conflict, because I did do it before, but then I had to come back and redo it. And I'm just actually happy to do it, because this time I was able to connect the actual data as well. So doing some of that functional engineering instead of just UI UX. So things that I just did, threw a gap on it, threw a max width on the picks here. And then really this is all pretty simple. And I have the code here just so we could look at it if need be, but this actually should not even be an H1. That's got to be fixed. See, we're debugging live as well. Is this the leaks page? Oh, I'm on the wrong page. That's why. Please hold. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, so if we're starting up here, we see that if we're loading the data, we have the global spinner. That's something that Mai put in. And then coming here, we just have a link back to the leagues. However, we're looking for a league all. This is just based on the user ID, so I threw that in there. Pretty simple and straightforward. Coming down, we have the header. And again, these are all like components that I made. So I created this card. I made the custom link. I made the survivors. This is actually a component because it's pulling information from each league, the survivors and the total participants, which is the second number. So this is stuff that's all in the database already. And I just had to sort of hook it up. And you can see here that things are getting passed as props in the league survivors. You have the survivors and the total players. And this is coming from the get current league function. So again, this was just a fun exercise for me to just throw out the UI UX, but also connect that data to our database using the API and functions that we have in place. So yeah, that's what I've got. We have this currently as labeled as week 2 because I was testing. So once we have the past week's data entered in, as long as this is after week 1, then this link will pop up, and you can see that logic down here. So if the current week is greater than 1, then it'll show the link for the past weeks. If not, it's going to show nothing. It just won't be there. And I could actually, I think, do that. No, maybe not. Okay. Well, I figured I'd give it a shot. But yeah, so that's what I've got. It was a pretty straightforward update, but it was fun for me to connect the data to it.
Nice, man. Live demos, right? Oh, man, someone is just revving the hell out of a car outside. I apologize. Probably my neighbor. Anybody, any questions for Ryan? Great update. I think, obviously, the default one that we could probably ask that I've been asking, that I asked Mai, was the same for you. Any conflicts that you ran into, and how'd you work through them? Everybody's kind of got a different process, so I'm curious.
Yeah, so for me, I haven't been shy about it. Like, functional engineering or connecting the data to the front end is something that I want to get better at, and I've been working towards. So jumping into that, I just said, well, I could fix the UI UX and then make a separate ticket for someone to do it, or I could just do it. And considering that the UI UX was already implemented before, and it was really very straightforward for me to re-add it, I said, I'll just take a shot at it. And so for me, it was more of just getting a grasp on our functions that are pulling data in from the database and how to use them, and then testing them. So mocking the functions and the data, that was interesting. So I just pulled up the test here, and we could look at it real quick. I'll make it bigger for everyone. So here, just like passing in the mocked value of the league ID, which doesn't exist, and then empty array. And here I actually put in one of our real league IDs, just for now with 1 week. And so this is basically testing, hey, is the proper information getting passed to in the header and the survivors, including the participants? Is the correct week showing up? And then I even have a test, like you can see here, this specifically without past week's link, and then the next one shows that with a past week's link. So this here, you see week is 2, and in the first test, week is defined as 1, right up here. So that really was the challenging part for me, because it's relatively new for me. Unit tests aren't new for me, but it's that mocking, which definitely took a lot to wrap my head around. It was fun though, because I had examples to work from, which definitely helped. But then making it my own and work for this implementation, which is relatively simple, but again, just something new for me. So that was probably it.
You found value in adding unit tests yet? And like why we would add them?
I definitely do, because in cases of where, especially when we're working with more dynamic things, I think adding those unit tests and making sure the proper elements are showing up is important. And I mean, even in this case, yeah, we're using false data or, mocked data, so to speak, but, you want to make sure that this is rendering properly on the page. So I do see the value in it.
Anybody else, any other questions for Ryan before we move on?
I'm sorry, I was a little late. Which feature were you showing off, Brian?
Just showing off the reworked entries page per league, and showing my UI work that I redid, and the data implementation and that I did as well.
Any other questions, Shashi? You good?
Oh, I've got plenty, but I'm good.
Spare him for now. Okay. All right. Nice job, Brian. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Moving on to Alex. Alex, what do you got for us today?
Oops, sorry. Had to unmute real quick. So, can you all see my screen?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, perfect. So I'll kind of keep it a little short just because there's a lot going on. So to kind of start things off is, let me go ahead and pull up the website real quick. Sorry about that. So on here on the website, basically what we want is on the admin page for the notifications. We want them to be able to customize like certain emails, like email title, and then they can even type out like their entire email message. And I'll just do some letters for now. Apologies for the UI right now. And then to look at the code. So if you look here, this is the function that sends the email. And the function is send email notifications. So if you come into here, it's a server function. And since it's a server function, I realize that with form actions and submitting, we're able to use it on our front end without having a back end indexed. And it takes in parameters. The content is the title of the email. Group users are the user IDs of the people that you want to send it to. And then the subject is just the email message that you typed out. And then go ahead and it does this function right here. Oops, let me undo, which is create email. And it passes in this parameters. And I noticed Richard had a question for me about the empty array, so I want to point that out. So the reason for the empty array is if you come into this create email function, these are the parameters. And if you notice the message ID that gets created right here as a unique ID, and then the subject is a string, the content, and then if you notice right here, topics, that deals with topic IDs, which we can't get. So in order for this function to work, I had to put an
What are
empty array.
what are topics?
So topic IDs are basically if you go into AppWrite and physically make a group of people and then create a topic ID for them, but there's not really a way for me to do it on the front end. So then we went ahead, so I went ahead and used group users, which are the user IDs. So then I'll get passed in through here. And then this empty array right here is just to make sure that it stays empty.
Order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
can I ask you,
yeah.
what are you using to send these emails? What service are you using?
Yeah, so to send the emails, we have to use a email provider. So AppWrite, the way AppWrite is set up is it requires an email provider. And one of the providers that I went ahead with was Mailgun because they actually have a free version, whereas the other versions that AppWrite required for the email, like those were all paid. So for testing purposes, we went with Mailgun just because it's free. And then Mailgun hooks up to our database AppWrite. And then AppWrite gives us this function, create email, to where it sends it to the Mailgun provider and then sends the email out to everybody.
So with Mailgun, do you have to connect like your account to AppWrite, or how does it know to talk to one another?
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull that up. So for Mailgun, let me go ahead and get logged in. So for messaging, so let me go ahead and just show that too. So for messaging, AppWrite needs a provider, and this is where Mailgun comes into play. So we hook up our Mailgun provider. I'm not really going to scroll too much down because there's some sensitive information. Once AppWrite knows who the provider is, then that's when we can come in and create this function. And then once it creates this email, it gets the user IDs from the page. And then once it sends, it comes to AppWrite here. And then it'll take the information that you have inputted. So this is for an example. So it gets this information and then it knows who to send to. And then that's when we come to the front end to kind of explain some of this. So this is the function that grabs the specific users. So just for the time being, because with Mailgun provider, since it's free, we have to verify every single email address, because if we don't verify it on Mailgun on the free version, then like the function won't work. So I used Ryan and Walter for this. So we just created an email tester league, and this is the specific league for the. So when this function runs get league data, I basically just built a function, a button right here. So when you click this button, and then you inspect. And then in the network tab, when you click the button, it grabs all the data from that league. And then in my function right here, it's going to get that current league by the ID, by this ID. And then that's when the data displays right here. But we only want the participants because these participants right here are the user IDs to tell the function, tell the backend function of like who to send the email to. So then that's when here it grabs that league data and it grabs the participants IDs and then it sets the group users to all those IDs. So it's going to be a string array. And then once you have those group users, that's when the send email notification like knows which users to send it to. And then in here in the form field, that's when the subject right here, the ID subject. So when you type it out, it changes the subject to whatever you type in, and then also in the text area right here. So whatever you input here is what these variables get changed to, the content and subject. And once those are changed and you hit the submit button at the bottom, the form right here is going to handle the submit, which sends the email using those types of parameters. And then once the email sends, and then I can do a test if you want, but it'll basically send an email to all of
Let's
us.
do
So
it. Let's see
if I
it.
do email and stuff.
Do it.
So let me refresh, just kind of like go through. So the process, so we can change this button to like the league logo or something, kind of like at the front page when you first log in, you click your league. We could do something like that. So just to simulate it, you click that button, it grabs all the league data, and then on behind the scenes, it changes the content to that. And then when you do email title and then content, I'm
Type
just
in doing it live.
this is a test.
This is a
And then when you
test.
click send email, now it's going to send. And let me go ahead and pull up my email.
Make sure there's nothing sensitive.
Yeah, be
there.
careful.
Yeah, that's why I had it. So as you
I got it,
notice,
so you know.
yep. So
I'm
Ryan
good.
should have got it too.
Cool.
And then it sends a group email.
Sorry, I have another question. So that email testers button, how are we able to change that? Let's say the admin wants to switch who gets the email. Like separate leagues, like if there's multiple leagues.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's just probably be like a drop down or something where you can select the team and then
Yeah.
that data.
A drop down, or
Yeah.
let me go ahead
Well,
and log in.
We've got the drop down at the top. That's going to be for selected leagues, so I would imagine that would do it.
So we're not going to have global access from like an admin panel. They'll have to switch to a league to do any sort of settings in a league.
Right now, I think.
I forgot my password.
I mean, we'll do a first pass of them choosing the league, but since they're in the admin one, then they'll have to choose a league. But if they're in the league view, then they can just send to that league, because that top quick switch menu will allow you to do that. But this functionality is going to be up in the air. We're going to obviously try to do something simple first, probably allow them to choose any league they want and then send it out.
Yeah.
And
This
then
is, oops, sorry.
a second pass would be not just sending it to a league, but sending it to individual personnel. Like, let's say I only want to send it to the survivors, or I only want to send it to the ones that have not chosen their team for the week yet, so that it can iterate through that and then just send it to those individuals. So there's a couple ways to send notifications. We want to create one where it's automated, where it's like, okay, once a week it's going to send something, a reminder. And also one where it's manual, where the admin can say, hey, like, I actually only want to send it to the survivors and ask if they want to split the pot, right? Or something like that. So they have the ability to do automated messages as well as manual.
Well, since you just said that, and I have, but the ticket I'll be starting to work on tomorrow is to improve that page. I can take that into account when I'm building it too. So that's a good conversation.
Yeah, the first one is just going to be getting just the list of leagues, and then we'll iterate, right? Like, you don't have to do it all in one. We'll continue to iterate it
Yeah. And then to kind of go off of that, so when I built this function, the reason league ID right here is hard coded is just because we're limited right now with the free mailgun version. And I had to have Walter and Ryan also like verify their emails. So that's why I hard coded it. But we could also just pass in like league ID as a prop or something else. And then let's say we want to do like survivors, we could do like set survivors to league data dot survivors, and that could be like another selection that we do. And then I just kind of made a button for now just for simple reasons, but it could be like a drop down, and then when it selects, we could like pass in that league ID like this just as a prop, and then it already knows what to do with it.
Yeah, that looks good.
I've got a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
On the emails that you've been sending, you know, it shows all the recipients. Is there a way with the provider to sort of BCC it so everyone in the league doesn't have access to everyone's email?
I probably honestly could, because I think in the function that is an option, and I can definitely look into that as well to hide the recipients. But that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, I would definitely look into that. If not, there's got to be some sort of a configuration in Mailgun as
Yes,
well.
yep.
somewhere there has to be
It's
something
pretty
for that.
typical. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Nice job, Alex.
I know I asked you about this, Alex, but with the emails coming from Mailgun, how will our email providers know that it's not spam?
So that's like one of those things, because when I was testing it with my Gmail account, like it wasn't going to the spam at all, but it did kind of like flag it as like
Mhm.
dangerous and suspicious. And that's just one of those things that we're going to get because it's a sandbox version. So the email like providers see that as like, oh, like it's a sandbox, like this is in a sense like a fake email address, so they flag it. And then it kind of also depends on like the email provider that people have, because like a lot of times my Outlook email likes to send a lot of stuff to spam. So it's kind of like one of those things where if like worst case scenario, people would have to like flag it like and like send it to their inbox. And
Mhm.
but
Sounds good. Looks great.
Really nice job, Alex.
I have a quick question for you, Alex. Yeah, I was just curious. Do you ever foresee us moving away from Mailgun? My understanding and experience with working with like free tiers, they limit you at like a max number.
Mhm.
Do you ever see us moving away from that?
It kind of depends on like how many users we might get. Mailgun is just awesome right now because it's free and it allows us to test. And then there's like different tiers. And I've kind of noticed that Mailgun is like the cheapest version and it kind of goes up to like an amount of users, but I can see us like kind of drifting away. But we are actually limited since we're using AppWrite.
Yeah, you
for-
only have a few options that are set up to work with AppWrite directly, Mailgun being one of them, but the free option is why we chose it. I think we could probably move away from it eventually if there's a necessity, but Mailgun's pretty robust too. I think if we were to look at other notification options like SMS, we might want to move somewhere else, something that might be able to facilitate both. But again, that's also a financial thing. So
Now, tapping on top of what Maya was bringing up, if we decide to move away from Mailgun to like SendGrid, is it just a connection that we have to do? The functions would stay the same, or would it have to require new functionality?
Nope. So if we move over, that's when I come into here, I go into the provider, and then I just change it.
Nice.
And that's about it. And the functionality will stay the same because, let me see where it is. Yeah, because this create email is the AppWrite function.
It's
and
magic.
then it uses. Yep. So it's as simple as just changing the provider.
Cool.
very nice.
Jen,
Good
I think you had
questions.
a question, Jen.
Yes, I did know something when I was looking at how you implemented the front end. I noticed you're using like a regular form, and I noticed in the other forms we were using on the user side, we were using React hook form. So I was wondering, like,
It's
when
just
you
mocking.
would.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was
You
like,
just
was
got it.
there?
That's all.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering if that was like the expectation moving forward, like all the forms would be using React hook form, or would there be cases where you would use one over the other, or you wouldn't need to use React hook form?
Yeah. Standardization. The task here was the functional side of things. Alex
Mhm.
just got it up, still got it working. That's it. And then Ryan has a task to come and clean it up. So at that point, then he'll streamline it and bring the consistency up.
Okay, so all forms would be using React hook form. That's just something we
Yeah.
consistently got it.
Yeah. I will kind of say though, like if you run into an issue where you like AppWrite has backend functions, and like obviously this case is a server function and we don't have a backend. So a cool trick, if you want something like this to work on the front end, that's when like form really comes useful, like a form submit. And that way you just have to just build out the file as server, just create whatever function you want, use that backend function that you want to use, and then on the page just add it to a form submit and it'll work.
Cool. Is that like a Next.js kind of thing? Or just like a React
Yes.
component thing? Okay.
It's one of those Next.js things because especially like since we don't have a backend, like this function right here, create email, is for Node.js, which we don't have Node.js. And then props to Chris for giving me the idea of like server actions is you kind of just build it out as if you had a backend, and then you kind of just add it to a form submit and it should work.
That's pretty cool. Okay. I don't think I've ever used that before either.
And then I guess I can talk real quick about testing, because testing is another story that I had a lot of trouble with because
You sure
I
I'm gonna
know
ask you a lot of questions? Just kidding.
no, please. So when I tested just the function, I realized for the testing has to also be a use server test. And then in here, you have to like mock everything, because if you don't really mock it, the way Jess is set up for us doesn't recognize it, and it thinks it's a configuration issue when it's not. So you just make sure the test file is server, then you mock everything in the function as including in the function, and then these are like just the test variables, like these are pretend user IDs, the email title and message. And then here you're mocking the send email function, and then you have to implement that it's an async function and it's grabbing those parameters, and then it's going to await the create email function with those specific parameters that you pass through. And then here, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is just the random ID I assigned for the message ID. So you want to mock that. And then next, you're going to await send email notifications with those parameters. And then you're going to expect the create email function that gets called inside of this function, and then expect it to have been called with like everything that you provided for it.
For
So-
the create email function, we know what the return is going to be, right? Like,
Yeah.
we can test that and know that. So what I would say is, instead of returning nothing, return what we expect, mock the return, and then you can check for the has been called, but also check that the function return exactly what we expect from the API.
Okay. Yeah. And then in the page file, this is the front end. And since this is a backend function, you have to like mock it. Otherwise, it'll have like another configuration issue. So that's why here is when I should send the email notifications with the provided input. So these are the user ID test ones that I did. And then it's going to get the current league, the function inside of it, and then it's going to mock the resolve value, because like since it's a backend function, it doesn't really know what to do with it because it's on the server. So I have to tell it like, hey, Like you may not know what this is, but let's just resolve it and just say, hey, the participants are going to be this. And then on the front end, that's when you click, it's basically testing this button, the click button, and then the inputs that you put in, and these are just test ones. And then it's going to wait for the email button to be in the document. So I had to put this here because I wanted these things to run before submitting. So I had to like pretty much put this in between to tell it to like, hey, wait for this stuff to happen, wait for this to be in the document, and then go ahead and submit the button, and then expect the function to be called with the parameters.
Cool. You know what you should do?
What's up?
You should use Blog Recorder for this. And because if you look at online right now and look on how to test Next server components, there's really not much great information out there.
Yeah,
It's
no.
really difficult to balance between server and client. The client's easy because that's what everybody does nowadays. But testing server components are very difficult. So if this is a way that you found that it worked, if you create that article or even a video or something, that would help a lot of people.
Yeah. And it kind of, because like I know this is kind of my first time explaining it as well. Like it's a lot for me as well. But something that I noticed is if y'all ever have to like do something like this where you create a form submit and then you have to test for it, the best thing to do is just like separate them and test the server one on like a server test file.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the front end, mock it. Like, because what I tried to do was I tried to import it directly and then like directly test it with mocked functions inside of it. And it doesn't work that way just because they're on like two completely different sides. But
Sweet. Looking forward to
Definitely.
reviewing the crap out of this.
Oh boy. Here, see, there it was. That's what we've all been waiting for.
He had to get it out.
He
I'm like,
had
you had to ask about the test, and I'm like,
He's
I'm
been
too
he's
nice.
been
still learning.
dying. Nice job explaining all that, Alex. Did a really, really nice job on that. Look forward to seeing it iterated again. Who we going to next? Last but certainly not least, our friend Carlos. Carlos, how are you? You ready?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Let's do it.
I don't
Whenever
see your
Shasha
screen
gets
yet,
your
Carlos.
screen up.
My screen. Okay. So one of the things I've been working on and still haven't completed yet is the drop-down menu in the admin page. Here I am using a component that we have already that uses the ShadCN. I think it was called the drop-down menu component. And there's two buttons to it. One for that goes to the edit profile page, and then the other just signs the user out. Here I have the functions for those. So this is the standard handle logout function that we use in some other components. So just log the user out and route them to the login. And if there's any errors, console just log those errors out. And then the handle route function just directs the user to the user edit routes. And here's the drop down here, just the two buttons. Click on edit profile and it goes to that page. And when you click sign out, it just signs the user out. And here are some of the tests I wrote for it. So this test is for when the button is clicked, it waits for the buttons to show up on the screen. And then here, this test waits for the buttons to not be on the screen. And then this one makes the test click on the edit profile button and expects the router to go to user edits, and then here we expect the test to click on the sign out and then go to login. But I probably have to make an edit to this page to make it also just check that the user is signed out, or maybe this is good enough. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Man, dude, I can tell that you've improved a lot on at writing unit tests. This is pretty much like what I'd be looking for already. Maybe a little tweaks here and there, but I mean, all of you guys have come a long way writing unit tests, which is fantastic because unit tests are very difficult to comprehend and understand. But the more you write it, the more you understand, and the more I get to push you guys to tweak it and stuff like that. You're starting to understand the concepts and how to test what you're writing. So this is a great example, Carlos, of you adding those things and then testing exactly what you added, which is really great, really cool to see.
Yeah, really impressive work. What was maybe any sort of roadblocks or any sort of hurdles you had to deal with as far as the testing that you found to be most challenging?
I wouldn't say any of this was kind of challenging to me. It was pretty straightforward. Just being able to render the component on the screen and then clicking on each of the buttons and expecting them to be on the screen or do certain things like direct the user to the edit page. So yeah, I've been writing tests for a little bit now. It wasn't too challenging. But,
Awesome. Well, it looks like you did a really great job. Anybody else? Any other questions for Carlos? Shashi, you got anything? Crickets.
I don't have any questions, but when I review the code, I will. So how about that?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I love to ask you, Carlos, what was your most favorite thing about this task that you enjoy doing the most?
I guess one of the things I enjoy doing is just creating the UI, because this component wasn't really working correctly, so I had to add some styling for it to show up as we expected to. And yeah, I guess that was my favorite part. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you and nice job. And I would also suggest Blog Recorder for your explanation of your progress with the testing. I thought you did a really nice job articulating that. Yeah, I guess that's everybody as far as the demos. I wanted to just sort of go around and maybe do a roundtable of what everybody's feedback is so far on the progress or the process, like what they're getting out of it, what they learned on some of the last tickets they had, so on and so forth. Carlos, we'll just start with you and then we'll go around.
What was the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, just kind of a retrospective, just kind of reflect on like the whole process so far for you and what you've sort of taken out of it and stuff like that.
Well, I've really learned a lot about testing. That's something I didn't used to do a lot. So yeah, just being able to not only test, but think about the tests I need to make in order to make sure that a certain component is working correctly. And also just like learning to ask for help more. It's something I hesitate doing, because I try to do like everything myself. So yeah,
I think a lot of us fall into that because we've all been self-taught and built so many things by ourselves. It's hard to sort of relearn to ask for help and remember that you are working on a team. So I can certainly appreciate that. And great job with the progress on the testing as well. I think, especially again, for a lot of us, the testing is such a part that's never touched or even talked about. So this has been really eye-opening for a lot of us, I think. So nice. Thank you for that. Mai, you're next on my screen, so we'll go over to you.
Yeah, I love what we have done so far. We have come such a long way, and it's so crazy to see how like what we were before with the MVP and where we're doing now. But I'm excited like what we're going to be doing going forward because obviously with more advancements and improvements. So I'm excited for that. One thing I definitely learned, as always, testing will always be something to get better at, for sure. And then another thing is maybe I've been just studying so much algorithms, but I started implementing that into how I approach my tickets with considering like edge cases, any extreme cases as well. What if there's 0 users? What if there's 1,000 users? How do I go ahead and write good code for that? Am I covering any other like random situations that might occur and pop up there? So yeah, that's definitely what I've taken away thus far, my retrospective at the moment.
Nice. I have a follow-up question to that since you talked about the edge cases and everything. As far as like scope of a ticket, how do you know when to maybe dial it back so that you manage to stay like time boxed?
Oh, that's such a great question. um, that's such a great question. I don't have a question for that yet. The person that will tell me will be Sashi, because the way I think about it is it's better to try to solve for all extreme cases, small and big, and then from there, after putting out all my thoughts and my comments and making sure I clarify the objective and understand all of that, and then proceed from there. So as of the moment, I don't have an answer for that. Besides, just hey, Sashi will tell me like, hey, that's outside your scope. Don't worry about that. So yeah, that's my answer to that at the moment.
Well, maybe Shashi can give us some feedback on that. Is maybe some tips and tricks to, I guess, better understand how long you should work on something before it's too much.
I can tell you now if you want or no.
Go for it.
It's always based on the task, right? If the task says work on this item, then work on that item. The edge cases, you can cover some of those, but bring those up and be like, hey, I found this edge case. I'm considering this. What if we have 1 million users, right? I should cover for that. And I'll say, no, I'm sorry, but this task is just to get it to work. And then as we get through our users, then we'll figure out how to make it better, And if we had 1 million users already, then we would write the code for 1 million users, right? But because we don't, we write for what we have and what we're expecting in the next, few months here. And so that is always something, but also performance, with data structures and algorithms is understanding performance. That is something that I do highlight is if it's not performant or very performant, then it's like, hey, like, let's make this easier or more understandable. But other than that, it's not like, let's get this down to the most performant code possible. Again, it comes down to if it's a new feature, let's get it to work. Let's get it kind of performant or good, in really good shape. We can create a post-launch ticket. We can continue to iterate it. It will never be perfect, but it will continue to progress.
Great answer. I think one thing that's important, I think, you really did a good job of that last week too, or at least on this most recent ticket, is communication, being proactive and not reactive. Myself had some conversations about some of the questions about the edge cases that she's talking about. And I think, again, bringing those up as opposed to just kind of keeping your head down and like struggling with stuff can help you manage that time more effectively too. So he says, Ryan, I hate you sometimes. Yeah, good response though. Well, speaking of people I dislike right now, Ryan, why don't you go ahead next?
Yeah. Well, I'm just happy I got you to hate me. So that's where we're at. Don't hate you, Jason. Yeah. So for me, the last 2 weeks, they've been a little bit frustrating because I feel like I've been back and forth on a couple of tickets, and I don't know. I have like one that's been hanging out here for a while, and part of it is because of the tests needed a lot of assistance from Shashi, and talking about the loading spinner. Like, this is something that it took me no time to actually create it, but this test is just taking 5 years to get right. So, yeah, I mean, really, it's like a little bit of patience. It's keeping up on the team, looking for reviews and stuff like that. It's something that Carlos and I tried working together on as well before Shashi was able to finish writing the test. And, but, you know, sort of with my on how long is too long, and like you said, identifying those edge cases and stuff. All right, so I've really been trying to be better about not letting it go too long, because I know I will just go down a rabbit hole and keep going and going. So I think that's probably the best thing that I've been trying to do in the last 2 to 3 weeks is just stop digging myself deeper before asking for help. But I also make sure to give it an honest try first, especially if it's something that I'm not super familiar with or comfortable with, right? Um, Making a design into code is easy for me. It's everything else that I have to work a little bit harder at. So
I think it's important too to remember the scope of the ticket. Sometimes these things will deviate you so far that it almost loses what the purpose of the task was anyways. So and again, that comes back to that, if we're all communicating and people are asking questions, sometimes we can sort of reset that cycle and get everybody back on task. So
yeah, actually, the scope thing is something that I definitely struggle with. I keep doing more than the ticket is for. So for me, like, I really had to stick to what the ticket says and nothing more, because I keep thinking I need to do more than what it actually is for. Live and learn, I guess,
cut that shit out.
Exactly.
Alex. We'll go over to Alex now.
Yeah. Speaking of scope of the ticket, I do kind of like struggle with that as well. Because like my last task with the whole emailing and stuff, like I did do a little bit of the UI in the sense of like, so I could actually see the text and stuff. And I would always be like, oh, I could do this and this and this. And then Shashi would be like, no, like just basically just get it to work. And kind of just figuring out the fine line, because sometimes I would start to think of ideas and be like, oh, you want me to add this or like do this and stuff. But it's kind of just like, no, stick to the ticket and finish that ticket. And then maybe you could take that idea to like another ticket and create another ticket off of that idea. And I will say a lot of what I have learned since joining Gridiron is a lot, like I've noticed that I've been able to like deep dive into things where like previously I would just be like, what the hell is this function? Like, what does it do? Like, what am I putting into this function to make it work? But now I've kind of noticed that like I can deep dive into the root of like the node modules and like figure out things. But yeah. And then testing, getting a little bit better, still struggling.
Nice. I think the testing has been a challenge for everybody. It seems like recently, and I think you mentioned it sort of just now, but in the Discord chat too, you really had this light bulb moment where things are like really clicking for you, and that's really cool to see. So nice job, Jennifer. Over to you, and I'll try not to swear anymore.
Yeah, you gotta be careful, Jason. There could be children watching. Yeah, I think I echo a lot of what everyone else has been saying. I definitely struggle with like the scope thing, and I try to like not like do more than what the ticket says, which I find kind of hard sometimes. Like I see it and then I just like instinctively just want to fix it right there. But I think I've been better at stopping myself and then just like asking like Shashi, like, oh, okay, like I noticed this, like, should I make a new ticket or should I like try and fix it? Which is usually just make a new ticket. Is usually the answer. Um, Testing, yeah, testing has been a struggle. I think I've only done it like a few times now. Definitely feel like less than everyone else. So when I did this ticket or when I did the test for the recent ticket, I was just staring at my screen and I was like, oh my god, where do I start? Like, what do I do? But I think like because it's so overwhelming, I noticed it's easier to start really small and then just go from there. So I was like, okay, well, let me just render it and then let's just see what happens. And I rendered it and I got an error. I was like, okay, let me just fix this error. okay, let me run it again. And then I was like, okay, error fix, let me run it again. So that helped a lot. And I think from there, I just kept taking step by step, and eventually you have like a full blown test. Because when you look at everyone else's test, I was like, oh my god, like how do you even like write all this? But then yeah, you start small, and then eventually you have like a big test of your own. And you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then getting comfortable doing like code reviews, like I finally started like doing some code reviews, and I had the same problem as like, or like I didn't realize it until I saw Alex's comment, but like I forgot to click submit review at the top, so like nothing was getting submitted, and I was like, oh, maybe this is why no one answered my comment. So then I like clicked submit review, and then the code review went through. So that was a fun experience. So getting more comfortable with that. I know in the last stream, me and Alex were still kind of like newbies, didn't really do reviews. So I think I've noticed both of us have kind of stepped it up and started doing reviews. So which was good. So there was growth there, and yeah, overall just been good learning. Wish I was like closing these tickets a little faster, but I think that's okay. I think we're all just here trying to like get better and learn, and I think that everyone just like have like grown a lot since like throughout the project. So overall, pretty good.
Awesome, Jen. Thank you for that. And yeah, I think everybody has grown and gained a lot of experience. And it's interesting that you mentioned we are running up on our deadline here. Football season starts soon, and I'm curious. We can do a thumbs up and thumbs down since we're going to wrap up here. Are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? Fourth quarter. We've only got a couple minutes left. It's 2-minute warning. We need a field goal, guys. We need a field goal to win this. Are we going to do it? There's your motivational speech. Shashi, give us a Vince Lombardi speech real quick.
We will make it because we can scope down things. So, of course, we'll make it.
Love
Chris
it.
thinks we're going to make it too.
Of course.
In chat.
I mean, the goal is to get something and to test with it. So we do have an MVP that we can test with. It will continue to iterate and make things better. But I think there's going to be a lot of manual work to be done as we go through the season and get things working. But I'm proud of the team. We have been through this for several months, like, I don't know, like 10 months or so, planning, getting through and all that stuff to get to this point. There's still more work to do, but we can definitely plan to start next week. We'll create some leagues and start testing it out, because I definitely want to start starting week 1, which is next Thursday.
Next Thursday. That's it. But we need the fans. We need the audience to cheer us on too. We need to know y'all have our backs. So make sure you're keeping up with everybody on socials. You know where to find everybody. Shashi, do you have anything to close us out today?
Yeah, I would say, great job, everybody. It's been a long journey. There's been just lots of ups and downs, lots of learnings oopsies, that wasn't supposed to go up yet. It just goes up automatically. All right. There's just a lot of learnings from both ends, my end and y'all's end. It takes time, and I think that's the thing with being a self-taught individual, even somebody coming out of computer science school and trying to get their first job. There's so many things you have to learn, the process, the communication, even just communicating between peers. Like, how do you do that properly? How do you ask for help? And when do you ask for help? And all these little tasks that it's hard to learn on your own, right? You can't learn on your own. It takes a village to do that. And by me helping you guys and leaving you guys with my experience, hopefully it's been valuable.
It definitely has been.
Super valuable. Super valuable. I think we all appreciate everything that you've done and put together for us. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I will. So whatever. Anybody else? Last thoughts? We're out. That it? Wonderful. All right, Shashi, hit us with the pick again.
All right.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody saw this before we got done. This is what haunts all of our dreams
Every night,
every night.
every PR.
But this is also what makes us all better. So keep improving, keep iterating, and I guess we'll see everybody next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Sounds good.
See you in
All
the
right.
next
Bye,
one.
guys.
Cheers, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.